All right, we are live, and thank you guys very much for being here. This is Real Raw Health. We want to welcome you to Real Raw Health with your host, Nikki Burnett of Taste Life Nutrition, and myself, Matt Rowe of Parsley Pet. During our show, we are talking about your pet's health, raw feeding, and the health our pets bring to us with love. And a little human health gets mixed in as well. So we want to welcome this week. We have a guest today. This week we have Sean Sire from Earth Buddy, and Earth Buddy is one of the most reputable CBD cannabis brands that Nikki and I both believe in. And we wanted to have Sean on the show to talk about CBD health, the benefits of it. And we are going to drill Sean with questions, and hopefully it covers all the questions that you have as well. So Nikki, welcome to the show today.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited. This is the first time I think on any Facebook Live we've had more than 2 people. So I think that this is super fun. And Sean, I'm really, really excited. You know, we've already been talking a little bit about you know, the CBD products and stuff behind the scenes. But I'm really excited just to jump in and learn. You know, I have some experience with it, but not a lot. So I'm excited about this.
And Sean, welcome to the show. We're so glad that you're here and joining us today. And hopefully we cook your brain a little bit and drill you with a bunch of questions that we are just curious about.
Yeah, I love it. And thanks for having me. And yeah, I'm ready for all the questions.
All right. So Sean, just really to start off, what got you into the CBD business?
Yeah, it's a really fun story for me to tell because it's personal in that I had a family member who had a dog named Kiva, and she was about 13 or so, and she was having cluster seizures at the time, and she was non-responsive to any of the seizure medication. We tried phenobarbital, Keppra, potassium bromide. Those are typical drugs that are used for seizures, and none of them were curbing those seizures. She was having upwards of 20 plus a day. It was no quality of life. She was deteriorating both in weight and then just wasn't eating. A knock at the and so basically what happened was I wanted to look for other alternatives to it. And so what we did is we started introducing cannabis into our diet. We started feeding food, and we saw a huge change. We were able to reduce those seizures from about 20 plus a day to about 1 to 3 in about of introducing better food, better supplements like medicinal mushrooms and cannabis, and goat's milk. To curb those down to about 1 to 3 a day was amazing. We kept her around another 1.5 years, and that was phenomenal. And yeah, go ahead.
But no, you improved your quality of life by, it sounds like you adjusted her gut microbiome to make sure that you were putting in the right microbiota into her gut. And then also you added the CBD on top of that to improve it.
Absolutely. I think, we can pinpoint some reasons why seizures happen, but I think, stress is a big factor in that. And if your gut microbiome is unstable, I think that's one part of it. And then just your stress levels, and dogs get stressed out, like your dog, if there's a knock at the door, somebody walks by, that would trigger a seizure for her. So we were able to curb a lot of that stress with the cannabis side, but also to your point with the gut health side.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that you make a really good point when it comes to, a holistic approach. And that's what we want to do, whether it's human nutrition or animal nutrition. You change their diet, you incorporate anything that's good and healthy and natural. So the medicinal mushrooms are amazing, a good raw diet, bringing in the goat's milk, and then adding on the things that are necessary, any other supplementation, and then the CBD. And you have a really amazing anti-inflammatory health promoting, yeah, I hate the word diet, even with dogs, but diet, lifestyle. And I can only imagine that this would make a huge difference for the little girl or boy. Sorry, Kiva?
Kiva was a girl. Yes.
Girl, okay. Okay. Anyway, that's amazing. It's an amazing story. I love that. Did you do keto ever? Sorry.
No, you go ahead, Nikki.
No, that's a great question. And if I had to be totally honest, if I can go back at the time, keto was just starting to get popular. This was in 2014 and 2015.
Okay.
Now, if you remember at that time, cannabis had just opened up the hemp side in Colorado. And at the time, Colorado defined it really clearly in one sentence, meaning anything with 0.3% THC or less is now considered hemp. It's all cannabis, but we're growing it for different chemical varieties. And in this case, CBD, high CBD, low THC. I was fortunate enough to have a relationship with two scientists out of Boulder County, and they knew more about the plant and how it's grown and to do it organically and small batches than anyone I know. So we were very fortunate in partnering with them early on and having a good quality source too. And that's kind of a running theme.
So we're getting Sean's audio like really making sure his program comes in. But a question that I definitely want to ask Sean when he comes back on is to ask him about sourcing, because he's starting to touch into that a little bit. And from the time that I had spent, so for prior to Parsley Pet, my wife and I owned a company called LO Pet Supply, and we sold CBD. And we were a very big part of that first initial industry of being part of it. So I see that Sean is back. So Sean, I have a question for you, and I don't know if you had heard me while your internet was getting froze up. So
Sorry about that.
You started to talk about sourcing of cannabis.
Yes.
How important is that?
Extremely, because you see the huge explosion of hemp and marijuana in general in the recreational and medicinal side. I think sourcing is important. One thing that we really focus on is growing for low intervention and proper cultivation of our plants. So a lot of hemp or CBD farms, they are in a mad dash to kind of race to the bottom. Our focus is on the quality of the plant, and we usually like to relate it to the best example would be the wine industry. And if you think about a good grape, we like to consider ourselves kind of the 84 Bordeaux as opposed to the box wine you buy from like a Walmart. So anybody can grow cannabis. It's actually a very resilient plant. A lot of companies will grow specific strains and use that as marketing to say, hey, our strain does X, Y, Z. We are more concerned with the health of the plant. And then what we do after the plant is harvested is really where the work starts. Is it properly dried? We still hand harvest our plants in every fall. And we properly dry it indoors in a temperature controlled facility, which allows us to preserve these beneficial compounds that the plant produces. And then the next step of that would be how we derive our natural compounds that the plant produces, because it produces more than just CBD. Cannabidiol is just one of many compounds that the plant produces. So we want to preserve as many of those as possible, because what we do know from research is that the full spectrum or whole plant is greater than the sum of just one part, meaning CBD is great, but in conjunction with many other small minor cannabinoids and what are called terpenes, which are basically like an essential oil of a plant, we know that they work synergistically, and that's the effect we want. We want minimal effective dose.
Okay.
Does that answer the question? I kind of jumped around.
No, you answered it very well. Nikki, is there questions about what he had talked about?
Oh gosh, put me on the spot. I guess I would have a question. When it comes to, so are you doing both CBD and THC, or do you stick with just CBD?
Okay, so in Colorado, in order for us to grow outdoors from a safety standpoint, number one, and to be registered with the Department of Agriculture here in Colorado, we actually have to register our crop. We have to be licensed, and we have our Department of Agriculture here come out and test our crop to make sure that the THC is not elevating, which would then, anything over that 0.3% THC then becomes a marijuana product, which only can be sold in a dispensary as a recreation or medicinal product.
Yep.
Okay, gotcha. So let's talk about then, let's move into the benefits of the CBD. Besides the story that you had was amazing. What are you seeing? What are you experiencing with other people outside of Kiva? And talk to me, but I want to know, when we've talked about this a little bit already, so I already know your answer, but why are some of your products different than others? There are a billion CBD products out there now, and people ask me about them. And a lot of the times I just say, you know what? All I know is you got to be careful because there's a lot of trash out there. And I'm not really sure because I don't know how to do the research on who's good and who's not good. So obviously you're on because you're good. And so this is why I'm excited about it. But I want to know what your experience is with the benefits of CBD in dogs.
Well, I think the starting point for us is sourcing. And so everything we do starts from the farm, because without good seed, and we produce our own seed, so we actually sell our seed genetics to other farms. And again, I touched on kind of the whole strain thing. A lot of strains are grown from clones. And so I always back up a second of why we're different. Clones are good from a marketing perspective because you can say, hey, our clone, you know, the OG Bubble Kush or whatever weird name you want to call it, produces XYZ amount of THC or CBD. We grow from seed, and typically when you grow outdoors from seed, that produces a healthier plant. It's less susceptible to pests. It produces its own natural immunity to the environment. And then from a farming standpoint, our farm, we have really high quality soil and environment to grow a healthy plant. Colorado specifically is a dry, arid climate, and so it's very conducive to growing cannabis as opposed to a humid climate, producing a very muggy. You're going to have a lot more bugs. You're going to have a lot more intervention into that crop. With our plant and our crop, we grow on 4 acres, and our farm prior to growing hemp on it was a organic potato farm. So the soil is well developed. Nothing has ever been cultivated on our farm that wasn't organic. So every year we amend the soil, make sure that there's no elevated heavy metals or anything like that. We practice rigorous organic standards. And then from a water source, which is another key point when you talk about differentiating factors of how our products are produced, we use glacial melt as our water source, which is about as pure of a water source as you can get. So everything starts with the plants for us. From there, we have our own facility right down the road. And our own facility, we then make a simple cookie, which is basically a nice treat to administer to your pet. And a lot of pet parents like that because it's easy. But then we get a little bit more advanced. We do incorporate a medicinal 5 medicinal mushroom blend. And then some of the extraction techniques that we use, we have a chemical and solvent free extraction method that literally only uses sub-zero temperature and low heat activation. We can get in a little bit of that, but basically what we're trying to do and what our focus is the plant does all the work for us. And so a lot of companies, to your point, are saying, hey, we do this really unique extraction, or we have this really crazy process that a lot of people don't understand. What we're trying to do is keep the plant as true to it was in the ground. The plant produces all these beneficial compounds, and we want to preserve that as much as possible. So by using a solventless process, we preserve the full profile of beneficial compounds in our mushroom blend. And then we also incorporate it into a colostrum powder, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with, but colostrum is phenomenal for GI health.
Yeah.
It's super powerful, and we actually use that solvent-free extract in that product, and it kind of masks the hempiness of our natural extract.
So you're actually improving the palatability of your actual product because you're removing that hempiness style taste of like a plant. And he's frozen again. But yes,
Yeah, I would
what
say
you
yes.
talked about while we're waiting for him to come back is, yeah, definitely when you look at good soil health, and I know this from being a part of the Bionutrient Food Association, and I know that we took a lot of time looking at soil health because that's where the plant is getting all of its nutrients,
Right.
where it's getting its minerals. It's actually where it's getting those terpenes that he talked about, is where that benefit is coming into it. And that's why we wanted Sean on the show today, because I think that anybody that looks at a stringent process by which they cultivate and grow, and they actually extract, and that, you know, that actual process by which they derive a product that they are going to give a dog is so important, because you've seen other companies that have done it, that have marketed very well, but the sourcing of their product is necessarily not the best. And they're not being honest with where they are getting their product from, or have the control like Sean has out of his farm.
Well,
Yeah.
you brought up something about palatability that I just want to address. I think with palatability, it's really tough when we're talking about a plant extract. Cats and dogs aren't really fans of plant extracts of any kind, for that matter. So what our focus was when we looked at it is typically what you see in supplements and pet products is they use a lot of cheap ingredients to make like soft chews, and you see that in the CBD side a lot for pets. We wanted to avoid that at all costs. So everything in our products is going to be functional in addition to the cannabis preparation that we're using, whether it's the solvent-free, just pure plant, or it's the regular oil that we CO2 extract. We want to use real ingredients that have added functionality to them, as opposed to saying, oh, that's just a binder, or that's a fat that kind of keeps our product soft. I believe they're called humectants in a lot of soft chews, where they just have no nutritional value other than they're a vessel to get the good ingredient in. And we just didn't believe in that. We wanted to use whole food nutrition, which I think is something that I believe in so much from a personal standpoint and from formulating products. I think that's really what our focus has always been. And I think especially in today's time, when you think about the health of people and how much focus we're going to have, hopefully coming out of this coronavirus, whole food nutrition and just eating better and eating more real food, less processed, I think is beneficial. So I think we want to fit into that conversation.
Yeah, and I think you should. And you were talking about the medicinal mushrooms and then going into the colostrum. I mean, I do colostrum every day. I do it for us. I do it for the dogs. Especially right now, it's an amazing immune builder. It is amazing for gut health. It's great stuff, and people are afraid of it because it's from dairy. It's got a totally different molecular makeup from milk, right? So it's first milk, but it's not milk, and so it's full of immunoglobulins, and is really, really beneficial. And so good for you. When I was first, I'm going to tell you this, Matt, and I probably don't know if I should say this on Facebook Live, but I'm going to. Okay. I was introduced to Matt by another friend named Matt. And when he told me what Matt Rowe does and who he is, I almost emailed you, Matt, and said, I haven't met you yet, but I love you already. And so I emailed my other friend, Matt, said, should I say this? He's like, no, don't say that yet. So I'm going to say it now. I was like, Sean, I love you already.
Yeah, I mean, my background is with a science-based nutrition company. And so I saw how a lot of pet food was made. Literally, I've been to facilities of various companies. I saw how these companies marketed And then having two scientists on board with us, I want to be able to explain what I'm talking about and not just give you a sales pitch of, hey, our CBD is better because of XYZ. One thing I want to preface, kind of back to your question of, what makes us different? What are the benefits? Nobody's CBD is CBD-er. That's something I've really tried to make clear to everybody I talk to about our company. CBD is one molecule of the plant. And really what we want to focus on is the quality of how we produce it and what we're adding in conjunction with that, because a lot of the animals that we are helping are dealing with the severe side of cancer, seizures, severe arthritis, digestive disorders, neurological issues, and then down to the base level of just general anxiety, fireworks, thunderstorms. You got a little chihuahua that doesn't like anybody. Those are very basic issues. Yeah, I have a Jack Russell mix too.
You were in the pre-show. You saw Mr. Chacha's anger. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
So as an individual, if I'm going to go buy CBD, and Nikki said it right, there are a million brands out there and it can become confusing for anybody. What are the top questions that I should ask as an individual when I go to buy CBD?
Yeah, I think the first one is, can that company or the store that you bought it from tell you where their plants are grown and how they're harvested and how they're extracted?
Okay.
And if you really want to nerd out, you can go into the detail of like, do they dry indoors? Do they have COAs to provide? Not a lot of pet parents are going to ask that, but I just kind of preface that. The second would be, is it full spectrum or isolate? And what that means is, do they keep the full spectrum of beneficial compounds from the plant intact, or do they remove everything and just keep CBD in there? The reason I always say ask that question is because CBD isolate is very effective. It's got really good anti-anxiety properties and really good anti-inflammatory properties. But what they've found through research is that in high doses, there are increased side effects. And then the other thing that we always call out about isolates are they are heavily chemically processed with some pretty harsh chemicals that are not safe for pets. If those chemicals are residually in there, albeit at a safe, FDA approved level, I don't really care. I don't want to give that to my animal. And if I see that on a lab test, I would never put it in my own body, let alone my pet. Yeah. So one of the things that we always try to focus on is back to this, the main topic is keep it as true to the plant as possible, unadulterated as much as possible, because our pets thrive on these unprocessed products, regardless of what it is, whether cannabis or raw food.
Awesome. So isolate, avoid.
I stay away from it, yes.
And you really want to look for that full spectrum.
Or whole plant.
You guys adopt definitely a full spectrum product in that.
Yes.
Awesome.
I think that it's, God's pretty smart dude. When he put, made plants and when he made, everything is, plants, there are components in plants and in, things that we consume that have synergistic effects, and they work together. If they're synergistic, they work together. And it's important a lot of the times, I would say most of the time, for them to be together. I think there are a couple of situations where that may not necessarily be the case, but it really just only makes sense.
Someone much smarter than me once said that there are no isolate vitamins in the wild. And I think that is a great way of putting it. When you think about eating an orange, you don't just say, wow, I'm getting all this vitamin C. It's like, no, you're getting a full nutrient profile from that orange or that tomato. And that's how we think of it. And the other side of it is we make the decisions for our pet. And so I'm always going to choose the more natural or naturally derived product than as opposed to the more scientifically, chemically processed product.
Yeah. I think that's the smart thing to do. I think for any of us, there are things, supplements that we sometimes need to take for therapeutic reasons. But we want to get everything that we can from our food and from whole food sources.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Good.
So, with everything that we do, we definitely want to make sure that the nutrition of our pet is taken care of. And Sean at Earth Buddy and his process and everything his company does meets that criteria. And that's why we were excited about having Sean on today and talking about CBD because, we're coming out of the wild, wild west of CBD and we're stepping into now that marketing and sales pitch where their large corporations are buying these companies and they're really just their mission is to sell product. Now we all have all experienced large corporations with their only mission is to sell product, and it ends up being large kibble companies that are basically leading our dogs, 50% of them, to be diagnosed with cancer or to die before the age of 10. And so this is something that as this industry evolves into cannabis, it has so many benefits. We are so happy that Sean is available and Earth Buddy is around because they are somewhat setting that high standard for what a product like this needs to exemplify in order to get the health benefits from it. So Sean, thank you very much for being on the show today and being a part of everything that Nikki and I are doing. I'm a fan, and yeah, and so definitely. And Nikki, that we actually have a sponsor now. Would you like to talk about our sponsor?
Yeah, so Rightful is their human nutrition product, but they're a great company, new to, I say this all the time, one of these days they're not going to be new anymore, but I think they've been around since probably just before the beginning of the year. Good company. It's a liquid. They've got an AM PM formula. It's traditionally used for pain management, and they're selling it into pain management clinics. But what they're finding is it's also supporting focus and mental and emotional health and sleep and stress and all of these things. There's just kind of we talk about holistic. That's kind of what this is, and it's really a beautiful product. I've been taking it for a couple of months now and have really and I say this, but my focus is my focus because sometimes I don't have any, and it's helped me to focus during the day when I have these long days of work. And so it's great stuff. Go to rightful.com, put in the code TLN20, Taste Life Nutrition, TLN20, and get a discount. Good company. Support's a good one.
So Sean, how can people buy Earth Buddy product?
Yeah, they can go to earthbuddypet.com, and we have all of our information and education outlets there. And you can definitely shop the page. We have some really good veterinary resources. Veterinarykannabis.org is an organization that we work with pretty closely in the sense of we don't know everything. We don't know how to diagnose every pet, and cannabis is very individualized. So we work with them pretty closely, and they're really good about consulting new pet parents that might be cannabis naive. And so I always kind of shout them out because they help us a lot on a case-by-case basis, because we do not know everything about everybody's pet, and we're not a cure-all. So we want them to work with veterinary professionals, but absolutely go to earthbuddypet.com and check us out, and give us any questions or feedback if you can.
Yeah, definitely. And email Sean directly. I mean, I don't know his email address, but I'm sure he has an info at. So definitely ask them a lot of questions. You can tell the passion about the industry. So we want to thank everybody for tuning in to Real Raw Health with Nikki Burnett and myself, Matt Rowe. So if you want to get in touch with Nikki Burnett, I highly recommend it. It's tastelifenutrition.com. She is brilliant when it comes to functional nutrition and really in this space of getting our health back to where it needs to go with all of the COVID fun and everything that we're going through right now. I hope that we wake up that what we eat determines our health and our benefits. You can always contact me at Parsley Pet, and just go to parsleypet.com, where we do HTMA diagnostic testing on dogs. And we have a couple of new tests out. We have a test that is going to test glyphosate levels on the pet. And also we're starting to offer support with raw feeding as you are really walking down this road of really ideal, proper nutrition for your dog. And we're so happy that you guys could be here. So thank you, Sean, again, for all of your time today and for educating us all on proper CBD.
Thank you
Yeah,
guys
thanks,
for having
Sean.
me. I really appreciate it, and look forward to chat with you guys soon again.
That sounds great. So are we. We'll see you
Perfect.
guys later.
All right, bye, everybody.